So today I'm here to talk to you about Logic and Lore second edition, as well as the Logic and Lore Variance expansion, which is live on Kickstarter right now and doing very well. The first edition of this game has sold out, so if you want it, this is the fastest way to get the updated second edition, which is essentially the same game with, just a few like cleanups and tweaks, but it is the game that you know and love. So if you know and love that already, then you may just be interested in the Logic and Lore variants. This is all prototype. This is the first version of Logic and Lore. It'll have some tweaks, like I said. This is all a prototype. So everything you see with the variants, just know it's going to be cleaned up and polished. And this is just for you to get a look at what it looks like. And it gives you more options to add to this game. This is one of the coolest deduction games I have ever played. It is a 2-player only. It has so many different ways you can play it. And one of the things that I appreciate most about it is that you can actually play in different ways. Therefore, if you're playing with someone much younger than you or less experienced, I can play on a harder mode than they are playing on, which is really, really cool that we have that option. So in this game, you are trying to get the heavens to align. So there will be cards numbered 1 through 9 in the center, and you are trying to get your cards to match. I love how beautiful the cards are. The cards have questions on them. In the base game, you will each get your own deck. You will either be the purple or the green, and then you will get your player references. So with your references, you will decide if you're playing on Starlight or Star Bright. Starlight is easier. Then there's kind of an intermediate called First Star AC tonight. And then there is Star Bright. So you will take your reference card and you will put it on the side that you are playing on. So it will tell you what to do on your turn order. So the goal, like I said, is you are trying to get your cards in the correct order. So they will all be face down. And on your turn, you're always going to flip 2 cards up. And then you're going to ask your opponent some questions about them. I have some cards in here that I shouldn't because there are more than 9. Clearly I didn't. Oh, I have the black holes in there still. That's why. Those should not be. I should only have my 9 cards. Those are other variants that come with the game. So you shuffle up and you're going to show 2 cards to your opponent, and then you're going to ask questions, and they must be truthful. However, if at some point you see the cards that you shouldn't, then anything that you have not revealed as being in the right spot, you have to shuffle up and redistribute. So basically you lost all of the information that you had. So if we are playing in Starlight, the first thing I can do is I can move my cards face down around to where I think might be a better placement for them. Obviously, first move, you're not going to do that. And then I can also do what's called aligning the stars, which is where I reveal everything of mine not yet revealed. And if I'm correct, I win. And if I'm not, I instantly lose. So then I choose my focus. So I can choose any 2 face down cards, and I would then show them to my opponent. And they're going to be lined up with these cards. I cannot see them. Obviously, I'm on camera. I cannot see them. They can. And then I get to ask questions. And because we are playing Starlight, we have the questions we can ask for that in order. With Star Bright, we have different questions that we can ask, but not all questions are available to us at all times. We have to have a dragon token. In order to do that, questions 1 and 9 will always be available, but the other questions we will essentially have to have claimed in order to ask that one as well, and we may ask in any order. If I show 2 cards and say, is this aligned? And they say yes, I then lose some of those dragon tokens back to my supply and have to place them back out. So we're going to go back and forth doing this. Some of the questions that I can answer are when I show my 2 cards and say, are either of these aligned? That would mean they're in the right place. The person would tell me no, because they are not. I could say neighbors, meaning are they next to each other in a sequence? So if this was a 5 and a 6, they would say yes. If they're not, they would say no. You keep going until you get a yes. I can say symmetry. Do these cards add up to 10? They could say yes. If they did, these don't, they would say no. And then my final question in the easy mode would be, which is the greatest? And they tell me it's this one. So I put it down, and then we have all of these tokens. So I know that this one is greater than the one I asked for over there. And you can use the tokens however you want. They're communal, and you keep going. Now let's say instead my cards had been in this order. And I said, are any of these aligned? They would say yes, and they would point at the one that was, so that would go face up, that would go face down, and my turn would end because I got a yes. So going through all of that, that's the starlight mode. Then star bright is where you have to earn essentially other questions that you can ask, and you can ask them in any order, which is great. You have an intermediate mode between those two where you don't have to earn your questions, but you can ask them in any order, because you may not want to always start with, is this aligned? Because if you get that immediate yes, you don't get other information. So this is all what's in the base game if you don't already know logic and lore. Now we add in variance. And with this base game, there's still other modes I'm not even showing you. There's black holes, there's a whole bunch of other things. But now we're going to add in dice because we needed more variance in our life. So the way that that's going to work is we are going to have a traditional set of dice, and we are going to decide once again if we are playing on the easier or the more difficult mode of those. So let me find my card I need. There is Star Flight and there is Star Sprite. So Star Flight means you start with 4 dragons, and we're going to roll each of these dice and put them on here. And on your turn, it just says you move 1 space. So you move your character 1 space to the new dice that will have a value on it. You're going to spend 1 of your dragons if you want to go farther. If you don't like where you landed, you spend 1 of your dragons and you can go farther. You start with a certain amount, and each time you loop the card, you get 2 more dragons. So you have a way to earn them back. And any dice that you pass, you're going to re-roll. So you're potentially giving your opponent new numbers, and you cannot be on the same spot as them. So you would skip them. So you are then going to use the values on these dice to have new questions. So if all of these dice were out here where they should be, I now have new questions. So if we are playing Star Flight, once again, I can still say, are these aligned? Then I can start to ask some really fun questions like, is either of these cards lower than the rolled dice? Now, if my dragon's on the D20 spot and it's an 18, that's not really a great question. My cards go 1 to 9. I know it's less than. So that might be a time when you either want to skip that question or you want to skip that dice and go somewhere else. I can say, is the sum of the cards higher than the value of my dice? And let's say my dice value that I'm on is a 6. So I can simply say, is this higher than a 6? And they can tell me yes or no. I can say, is this card within 1 value? Or no, sorry, this one always throws me off a little bit. Is this card within the rolled value spaces of where it should be, within 1? So like if my dice is a 6 and I'm holding up a 7, they would say yes. Then I can say, is one of these cards the actual rolled value? So that doesn't mean it's where it should be in order, but it is the number on the dice. And then greatness, which of these is greater? So those are the questions that I get to ask. And then finally, if things are not tricky enough, we have the Star Sprite version, which is where I'm going to get a lot of the same questions, but I'm going to do it with a die that I roll right then and there. So I will choose 1 of the dice and roll it. And I will then ask all of my questions from there. So that's where you're kind of looking at probability of like, what information do I have? And you're going to have a whole sheet that you can be marking things down and keeping track of everything, because this is a lot more brain burny. And I'm going to be like, well, given what I want to know, I really want to hone in on low things. So I probably want to roll a lower dice. Maybe I just want to roll a D6. If I'm wanting to hone in on low numbers, a D20 could potentially really do some damage to me. Or maybe I'm wanting to know some big things. So I want a higher level dice. So there's a lot to go back and forth in what you're rolling, how you're rolling it, how you're moving around the board, which version you're playing, And like I said, the really cool thing is I can be playing on one of the harder versions. And if I'm playing this game with one of my younger nephews, they can be playing on the easier version, because ultimately we're both trying to get our cards in order, and we're trying to do it through asking a series of questions. So the confines we have on how we ask the questions changes, but the game itself doesn't. So you can make this as complicated or as straightforward as you want. Either way, it is logic deduction. It is a great time. It is from Weird Giraffe Games. Love it, love it, love it. Go check it out on Kickstarter right now. Let me know if you've played the version 1. Give me a like and a follow, and I'll keep bringing you more board game content. Thanks. Bye.